It's week 11, and we'll discuss our favorite plays on the main slate for DraftKings as we prepare a full cash lineup and our favorite GPP stack. In addition, we've got our week 11 survivor picks. It's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lay.
And I'm Michael Wiley. And we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, it is the end of 10 weeks. We have to thank our FFC community for being so active in the comment section with their takes for DraftKings. We have a bunch of qualifiers. Let's reveal them.
The qualifiers include Robert, A+, Timothy, G Money, Scott, Rocky, Brian, George, and Laura, Fernando, Dave, Damon, Christopher, Football Jesus, 224.5 Baconator, Michael, Steve, Jeff, Jono, Bradley, Nate, My Sports Review, and Medic 58.
I'll thank each and every one of you guys. You guys have really helped improve this channel, but you got to do one more thing in order to officially qualify. In this video, go in and enter your DraftKings username. That will allow us to add you. Without that, we can't add you. So be sure to put your DraftKings username. And guess what? We got a few more spots left open. So if you still want to get in, put your DraftKings username and put your best take for the week 11 slate. And it all begins in week 12. Michael, I don't know why they're going through this, because you and I are going to win this, right? Because we're in this.
Yeah, no question. I mean, good luck, guys. No, seriously, you got to get in on this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
All right. So we're going to get to Survivor in a minute. As usual, use the timestamps if that's the only content you're interested in. But let's go into the DraftKings studio and put in our week 11 main slate cash lineup. We always like to start at running back, and normally we want to pay up. And I want to just put a quick comment about Christian McCaffrey. How much is a stud is this guy, Michael? Everything that could go wrong last week did go wrong, in the sense that he basically scored twice. One got overturned by instant replay, and the other he stepped out of bounds just barely at the 4-yard line. And still he puts up 26. Are we going to go with him? He's very enticing.
It is tempting. I think no matter what, his weekly floor is high, right? I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey, but there's a couple of really good bargains that I think we got to consider before we consider someone like McCaffrey. The other thing is, it's really tempting to pick on this Chiefs Cowboys game, over under by far the highest of the week. But again, there's just some bargains here because of some injuries. And it starts with AJ Dillon, with Aaron Jones out on injury. I like this game. I think Minnesota is somebody to always pick on as well. The Packers look good. Dillon gets the ball both in the run game and in the passing game. Again, that's with Aaron Jones in the game. I mean, look what he's done the last couple of weeks as they've appreciated his value, and you can see that they're appreciating it. So for me, at $6,200, you cannot pass up. What do you think?
Agree 100%. It's just too cheap. Look at what he did last week. 23 touches, 124 total yards, 2 TDs. Does this sound familiar? Because the last time that he was the main back last year, week 16, when Aaron Jones was out and Jamal Williams was out as well, who was on the team last year, guess what he got? 22 touches, 129 total yards, and 2 TDs. So, Michael, sign me up for $6,200.
Yeah, no question. And we actually have another running back with similar, even better pricing. Now, this one, I guess, is a tiny bit questionable. So you're going to have a couple options here. But now I'm talking about Mark Ingram in Alvin Kamara's spot for the Saints. And, part of this is, Alvin Kamara and what he's potentially can do. And also knowing what Mark Ingram has done when he is the primary back. If Kamara doesn't play, Mark Ingram is really the only other option. And look what he did last week, right? And so I feel like bargains make it possible to do a lot with your lineup, especially guys like Mark Ingram, teams like the Saints who use their backs not just for running the game and at the goal line, And with the quarterback situation, they're going to have to use the running back at the goal line, but also out of the backfield of the pass. Eric,
you're not kidding, Michael, when you say that if Kamara is out, Ingram is their only option. He's really their only option for anything. Yeah, I mean, they don't have a star wide receiver anymore. Michael Thomas is out for the year now. And he's just going to be heavily involved in both the passing game and the running game if Kamara's out. Now, if Kamara plays, we recommend that you have a couple of pivots. My favorite pivot, exact same price, is Darrell Williams. Once again, in that ridiculously high scoring game, Kansas City and Dallas, 56.5 over under. Now, here's the caveat with Darrell Williams. We need Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be out. Because if he's out, look at his involvement. Did you see what he did in the passing game last week, Michael?
Yeah, I watched it, unfortunately.
Were you playing against him?
No, I'm a Raider fan.
Oh, okay. All right. So now you may say, Eric, what if Kamara plays and Clyde Edwards-Helaire plays? Well, then you can always go back again at the same price at David Montgomery. He's at home. He's back and healthy. He's coming off a bye. I expect that he'll have a fine game, especially given his price as a third option.
Yep. No, great calls, Eric. I think that's fantastic. Well, we've saved you some money, Eric. What do you want to do at wide receiver?
Yeah. So for now, I'm going to put Ingram in, but again, all the caveats we said. Yeah. Let's, this guy, I'm going to come out and say it. As far as fantasy is concerned, he's been a disappointment. But I'm telling you, this guy is way too good of a talent. His day is coming. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Davante Adams. Michael, I've watched a lot of Packers games this year. And I knew this at the beginning of the year. They just make such an effort to get the ball into Davante Adams' hand. Even though last week when they were playing the Seahawks, and they really couldn't do anything against the Seahawks defense, and the Seahawks offense wasn't being able to do anything, so they weren't forced to do anything. They still were really trying to get Adams involved. Rodgers is going to be healthier next week, and I think the fact that Aaron Jones is out, even though obviously we're high on A.J. Dillon, but A.J. Dillon isn't quite the pass reception guy as Aaron Jones. So I think they're going to have to rely on Adams even more in this game that we have here coming up this week.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to add there. I mean, he's the guy. He is so much upside, always a high floor. So the fact that we saved that money, got to spend it there.
All right. So
why don't I save you a few bucks so you can spend some money as well? There's a wide receiver hiding down in the lower dollar amounts who really is impressive, and I think that Lamar Jackson is starting to really appreciate this talent that is in Rashad Bateman down at $4,500. So let's go down there in that Baltimore-Chicago game. If you watch the end of that Baltimore game, which, gosh, I tell you, these upsets, we'll talk about a little bit more in the survivor portion. It's crazy. When they were trying to come back, this is who Lamar Jackson was going to, is Rashad Bateman. He was highly targeted, even more so than you can see right here in the week 10 play. There was a couple of situations. There was a false start when he got the ball thrown to him. I think an illegal procedure. So we're not even, including some of the that's always, you got to remember, there's a lot of these plays that come out in penalties that don't show up on the stat sheets. And so if you're watching the game, you see that. I think Rashad Bateman's usage is just going to go up week after week after week. So his floor is really, really high for this price.
Yeah, I love that. The only thing I'm going to add is he's got a great matchup this week facing the Chicago Bears. The Bears do not do a good job on wide receivers, 29th, and it's absurd how much cheaper he is than Hollywood Brown. So we'll take advantage of that. And that allows us to spend up again at the other wide receiver spot. I just said a minute ago with Devontae Adams how Green Bay tries to force the ball to him as much as possible. Well, guess who else gets the ball forced to them as much as possible? How about Deebo Samuels? In a great matchup against Jacksonville, is 27th in the NFL against wide receivers. Um, they added a new element, the Niners, to their game, Michael. They lined up Deebo Samuel in the backfield in order to get him more touches. He had 5 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown, running the ball, in addition to being the obvious number 1 wide receiver in a great matchup. I like this as long as he is healthy come game time.
Yeah, I think he's got a shin bruise, so that can always be a challenge. So something to pay attention to. But I'm guessing most of our viewers saw the Monday night game, and you could tell that they were just trying to get the ball to Sam. I mean, for those of you who remember the Super Bowl year when they went and unfortunately lost, if you're a Niners fan, they were getting him the ball all season long that year out of the backfield, in the coming from the receiver spot in motion. And it was huge for them. And look what they did against the Rams this week. It's like they refound themselves. They looked fantastic. And it wasn't just because of their defense. It was because of what they did on the offensive side of the ball. And Deebo Samuels was the most important part of that, and will be if they want to have a chance of making the playoffs this year. So no question, if he's healthy, he's got a very, very high floor.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that the game was on Monday night, because he was so featured on Monday night. I have no doubt that we're getting a little bit of a discount. He would have been a little bit more, I believe, if the game had happened already by the time they set the pricing. All right, so we have an average, thanks to Adams and Samuel, of only $4,400. So when we move the tight end, we're not going to be able to pay up for the Kelseys and the Kittles, or not even Mike Gesicki, who's more reasonable, who I think is a threat. But you know what? We've got a tight end bargain. Can't rely on Dan Arnold anymore. They priced him up to 4,100. Remember the good old days? He was in the 3,000s. But here's a guy who's still 3,000, and we're just catching him. It's like buying a stock, Michael. Before that stock gets really high, we're getting it on the upswing. Let's get Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is a guy who last week led the team in targets, in receptions, in receiving yards. What else do you want from a receiver? And this is all at the tight end spot. He led all wide receivers and all tight ends on his team. He's coming off a bye. He seems to have developed a real rapport with Fields, who's now the starter. I like this. He gives us a nice floor at only $3,400.
Yeah, and the Baltimore, I think, is the worst team against tight ends. And I mean, I love saving money here. I think this is a good pick.
Let's go over to QB. So yes, do we love Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes this week? Absolutely, but we can't afford those guys. So we see some savings. And Michael, I'm really excited about the guy that we're gonna play. But I just want to say, a guy who is really cheap, who I thought about at $5,000. Going against a very bad Miami defense, is Mike White. But I don't know if everybody caught Mike White kind of after a couple of good games, was feeling really good about himself. He announced that before the last game, he really should have been a number 1 pick in his draft. Well, speaking of picks, he had 4 of them last week as he struggled against the Buffalo Bills. So if you believe he can recreate his magic in Cincinnati and Indianapolis, that's not bad. But one of the things about Mike White, you're not getting much at all, if anything, on the ground. We think we can do better than Mike White at a cheap price, Michael.
Yeah, and I think that Miami defense is really coming along. So I'm afraid of them this week as well. So the reinvented guy coming back to his stomping grounds is Cam Newton at 5,100 against a Washington passing defense that has given up yards And Cam Newton is going to get involved in the running game. In fact, he's going to swipe some touchdowns from his guy in the backfield, McCaffrey, because he can. I think the only reason to not play Cam Newton is if for some reason he comes out of the game. I mean, he's going to get fantasy points at $5,100. I think this is a no-brainer. He might rival. He's got decent upside. He might rival some of those more expensive guys. But if he's in that whole game, which I expect he will, because of their current situation without him, his floor is really high. I mean, I think this is a no-brainer. I didn't think that I would be saying Cam Newton's name this year, but at $5,100, he's the starter. I'm saying his name.
Yeah, that's just not. We love Cam Newton, which we do for fantasy. He's in a good game environment here. He's a home favorite, 3.5-point favorites, and not a bad implied total of 23. If I have a criticism, Michael, did they not tell Cam it was picture day? Did they not? I don't know. Maybe not. All right. So $5,100. So that leaves us with a flex and defense. I don't understand. Michael, I would like you to explain to me why James Conner is so cheap.
Because he let us down this last week.
He let us down. Everything, and I mean everything, went wrong with the Arizona Cardinals. And all he did was score 15 fantasy points, got into the end zone again. He leads all the NFL in rushing touchdowns this year. Do you guys understand that? And I hate to say this. This is going to be terrible for me to say this. I don't have my Seahawks jacket on it, right? He's got a good matchup going up against the Seattle defense, who has not done well against running backs. I think their rushing defense has gotten a little better with folks. But again, it's certainly not elite. And right now, they're 31st ranked against running backs. And this guy, remember, Chase Edmonds is out. And he's going to get some buddies back, I think, this week, which I think will help James Conner. I think there's a good chance that Kyler Murray comes back. And I think it would be helpful to get the DeAndre Hopkins threat on the outside back. So I think we saw the absolute floor for him last week. He goes down in price for $200. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. Only it was more, I think, the Cardinals that disappointed with Colt McCoy just having an atrocious game.
That leaves us 3,100. That's actually not bargain basement, Michael. Normally we go bargain basement. We're going to do it at defense.
Yeah, and you could go with one of the lower guys here and save on maybe the wide receiver position, especially if Deebo Samuel is out, and then maybe you could do something else more expensive in another spot, maybe even get Christian McCaffrey if you're lucky. But we're going to go with what we have here and take advantage of the fact that Cleveland is playing at home against Detroit, who almost squeaked out a win, but couldn't figure it out. They couldn't even kick a field goal at the end of that game. Oh my gosh, that was so sad for them. It's time for the Cleveland Browns to really be the difference maker for that team. They're getting their running backs back. And that means that they're going to take advantage of being a home favorite against a bad team, and their defense should be putting pressure on the quarterback. And I think they're going to perform well this week.
Let me be clear about this. There's something wrong with the DraftKings algorithm, Michael. I think it put way too much emphasis on just last week, where the defense got torched by New England. But the reality is they have 29 sacks this year. That's the second most in NFL. That's the most important thing you want out of your defense. Some defense that will put pressure on the opposing quarterback. And the game environment that Mike alluded to is outstanding. They're a home favorite by 10.5 points. And they play Detroit, a team that doesn't do a good job of protecting an immobile quarterback in Jared Goff. Only 6 teams have given up more sacks. Let's get Cleveland in our lineup. All right, so we're going to talk about our favorite GPP stack.
All right, Eric, we're gonna go to this barn burner game. We're going to spend a lot of money because we're going for a really high ceiling. We think Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill are going to have another really good week. This time at home against Dallas, and then CeeDee Lamb, who they say is questionable, so you can check that and maybe bounce it to his counterpart if he is injured. Obviously, if CeeDee Lamb is out, that just makes Amari Cooper that much more valuable.
Yeah, tax the by far the highest scoring game. It is very expensive, so you got to save money elsewhere. All right, let's go into the studio for NFL Survivor. All right, Michael, we've got our Week 11 NFL Survivor. Man, Week 10 caused a lot more upsets, but I just have to quickly say I exercised the demon, Michael. My Indianapolis Colts, who I planned for several weeks to pick, beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, some of you might go, what are you bragging about? Why is that important? Because guess what? I got eliminated last year in the very first week because those same Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Colts. So I feel a little better.
Congratulations, Eric. I hope you're excited.
All right. I'm really excited about Week 11. So let's go through and show the top favorites for the week. Tampa Bay is a 10.5-point favorite at home against the Giants. Both Tennessee and Cleveland are at home 10-point favorites over Houston and Detroit, respectively. Buffalo and New England are 7-point favorites over Indianapolis and Atlanta. New England, though, is playing at Atlanta. And San Francisco, 6.5-point favorites at Jacksonville. And Baltimore is on the list as well. They're favored at Chicago. All right, so Michael, we're going to keep this pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and give our gold, silver, and bronze level picks. I'll go first. I just want to quickly say, I do not understand why New England's on this list. I know they had a big week last week. Atlanta is not a bad team, even without Calvin Ridley. I know they were bad last week. 7-point favorites at Atlanta? I can't sign on that. So what am I going to sign on? So my first pick is the Tennessee Titans. They host the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 14. And guess what? That's about it. They get Houston in week 18. I just don't think Houston's a very good team. They, along with Jacksonville, is probably the two worst teams in the NFL. I think Tennessee should have no trouble doing this. Yes, I sacrifice a little on future value, but I'm going for Tennessee. What about you for your gold medal pick?
That's my gold medal pick as well, and mostly because of Houston.
How about silver?
So for me, silver actually this week is San Francisco. I was really impressed with what they looked like at home. I guess at home against the Rams. I think they've figured a couple of things out. I think this Jacksonville team is not that good. It is in Jacksonville, so it's a little bit of a different environment. I'm looking for San Francisco to repeat a great week against a much worse team. There's a couple other maybe easier picks, but I really like this pick this week.
I'm going to differ from you. My number 2 pick is the Cleveland Browns. Yes, I know those Detroit Lions. They're pesky, and they got a tie last week, so they sniffed some success. So are they going to get a win this week? No, they're not going to do that. And where last week I said I don't see Pittsburgh, I don't see Detroit getting their first win against Pittsburgh. I was right. They just got a tie. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, as if this is a limb, that Detroit does not even get a tie against Cleveland. Cleveland should get at least one, if not both of their running backs back. And Cleveland has 0 future value. So if you save Cleveland all up to this week, might as well burn them this week.
Yeah, and that's my bronze pick. Special shout out for Tampa, who's going to come back and finally figure out their issues. But the other teams that I don't think should be on here is that Buffalo team. I think Indianapolis is dangerous, so I can't believe they're 7-point favorites. I'm really surprised about that. Yeah, it's in Buffalo. And also Baltimore had a rough week, so I'm kind of scared for them against Chicago on the road.
Yeah, and Buffalo has so much future value, so much better games than they have this week. So they have no business picking Buffalo. My bronze is going to be Tampa Bay. I know they have a lot of future value, which is why they're my bronze pick and not my gold or silver. But I just am not comfortable with any of the games near as much as I am with Tampa Bay. In week 12, we will have our Survivor Appreciation Week, where we have 5 shows for you, including a NFL DFS show on how to get better, 3 key strategies, as well as breaking down the Thanksgiving slate and the main slate next week. Until then, take care, everybody.
Be safe.